Hello guys, so today is 17th of March and Bitcoin price is 5,288 and now we are here with Chris from MMCrypto and we're gonna discuss current market situation. Hi Chris, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. We have panic in the whole world. We escaped here to Koh Phangan, Thailand to escape the panic as well, create some content and be here for our followers because in Germany it would be simply impossible to work. So thanks for having me. I hope you are well also. I think you are in Moscow. I hope the panic is not too crazy over there. Let's talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah, so we now see this massive crash in all markets on oil, stock, and as well cryptocurrency markets. And do you think that such sell-offs are due to coronavirus panic?
Yeah, sure. I mean, 2 weeks ago, the people blamed it on the sell-off of this Ponzi scheme, and now it's obvious. I mean, the coronavirus has a severe impact on the Bitcoin price, on the crypto prices, and of course, primarily on the primary markets there, on the secondary markets, on the equity markets, and I think we can blame it on that. However, this will be not forever. Every virus comes to an end. If we look at the distribution curves of viruses, they are like an S curve. They are going parabolic in the beginning and then they are flattening out, especially if we have a control over it. But yeah, I would blame it on the coronavirus. However, we have to face the fact that Bitcoin is somehow correlated to the stock markets, but I think we will come to that point later on. To answer your question, yes, very much so indeed. The coronavirus not only pulls down the stock markets, but also the whole economy and Bitcoin.
Yeah, and actually before everybody thought that Bitcoin is safe haven, but now we don't see this. We see that Bitcoin follows the drop on the traditional markets as well. And you mentioned now that Bitcoin is correlated asset. So can you evolve more how Bitcoin is correlated with traditional economy and is it gonna to become self-haven in the future?
Yes. So first of all, I think Bitcoin is correlated with the economy. The financial markets are something like a derivative of the economy. So the economy was doing bad already before the financial crisis right now, but we weren't able to see that in the traditional markets. First of all, I think Bitcoin is, we cannot deny that right now, correlated to the financial markets, and it's positively correlated. So whenever the stock markets are going down now, we see Bitcoin going down, and whenever we see small dead cat bounces in the stock markets, we also see a recovery for Bitcoin within the trading days of the traditional markets. And this is, of course, not what a Bitcoin believer wants to see. And this is something what we actually also said. We didn't predict it to crash that much. I have to say for sure, we did not see that coming. We did not see Bitcoin crashing below 5,500. We actually thought 5,500 would be already a very, very bad case scenario, and everything below has a very small likelihood. This caught us by surprise, but we always said whenever there is a financial crisis coming, we think that first of all, we will see a sell-off of Bitcoin into the safest thing right now, which is the US dollar and euro. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually expected a sell-off, but not that bad. However, I think Bitcoin is not a safe haven for traditional equity, for stock markets, for businesses around the world. It is more a safe haven for fiat currencies. So what we expect in this financial crisis and also economic crisis to happen is that the stock markets, what is already happening right now, are crumbling down first. And then we might see something like a deflation, but this will not last as long as in Japan. And then in the second step, we see people losing trust when the debt bubble eventually explodes, losing trust in the fiat currency system. And this is actually what Bitcoin was made for. This is what Bitcoin was designed for. Bitcoin is money, and Bitcoin is a hedge against the fiat currency system. So whenever we see the people losing trust in US dollar, euro, Singapore dollars, Swiss franc, and all of that, I think this will be the momentum when Bitcoin truly takes off. And we talked about it over on our MMCrypto channel. This might happen even towards the end of the year already, which is bullish for all Bitcoin holders out there if that might come into place.
Yeah, and currently as well, Federal Reserve cuts the interest. How will it influence on the economy? How will it influence fiat money?
So yeah, for sure. Right now they are trying everything to keep the system alive. We just recently saw in the United States by the Federal Reserve an interest rate cut from 1 to 1.25%. That was the previous rate. Usually they cut it by a 0.25%, by maximum 0.5%. They cut it by a full percentage point, by 100 percentage points, by 1% to 0 to 0.25. And this was, I think it was the biggest rate cut we have ever seen. And this was actually very crazy. And I think with this happening, and the most important thing is their second step. The first step was the interest rate cut. The second step was actually them putting the requirements of depository for banks to 0%. So, for example, before, when a bank had liabilities of 100 billion, they had to deposit at least 5 billion or so at a rate of 5% in their accounts. Right now, it is lower to 0%. So this gives an infinite leverage for liabilities and for debt. And whenever this happens, and this happened right now, we don't have a fractional reserve system. We have a zero reserve system, and they have an infinite leverage to lend out money. And the impact on that is that, first of all, they get the money for very cheap because the interest rate is at 0%. And second of all, they can do as much as they want because they don't need any reserves to back that up. And this will give a massive blow up on the monetary base. So what we might see is just in massive exponential increase in the monetary base. This is M1 in the economy. And this will maybe prop up the asset prices for a very short term, but the exponential curve will be so crazy that this system will collapse much sooner than expected. And we actually think this might even happen in 2020. So maybe we will see a dead cat bounce in the stock markets anytime soon once the coronavirus settles, maybe towards the mid of the year. Let's see how it goes. But then eventually the system will collapse. It has to collapse, especially with these requirements. And I think this will give the fuel for people losing trust also in the fiat currency system and for Bitcoin to gain momentum.
And what about halving? It's almost 2 months away. And do you think it still will be a catalyst for Bitcoin growth, and how will this crisis impact halving?
Okay, so usually the halving has a positive impact on the Bitcoin price, and we cannot see this positive impact right now. As I already said, this really hits every Bitcoiner's heart. And the sad thing is we don't see this positive impact on the Bitcoin price right now. And as everyone knows, the Bitcoin halving cuts the future inflation of Bitcoin in half. So lower inflation, of course, works deflationary of the underlying asset, on the underlying asset, which is Bitcoin, and should increase the Bitcoin price towards an inflationary asset, or like on an inflationary currency like the US dollar. Right now, we see the exact opposite happening. However, I think in the long run, so over the next 1, 2, 3 years, we will still see the positive impacts on the halving. But we have to overcome this coronavirus, all the fear in the markets, because the humans holding financial stocks, for example, equity, and the humans holding Bitcoin are the same persons. And they are scared right now. So they are selling everything they have. They are maybe buying gold, but even gold plunged down. People are hoarding stuff. People are selling everything they have to put food in their fridges. So we have to overcome this. And I think then in the mid or long run, at least when the people lose their trust in the fiat currencies, and this might take another half year, 1 year, then we will see also the positive impacts of the halving on the Bitcoin price. As a Bitcoin holder, you have to just lean back, wait a little bit, have some caution. We are here for the long run, and we should remind ourselves on the properties of Bitcoin. So this waiting will be a little bit easier to bear.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in one of your latest videos, you mentioned that we, for the first time, saw buy point since 2018. So do you think that we already reached bottom?
Yeah, what you are referring to is one of our last videos where we talked about two specific on-chain indicators, and they actually hit the same levels like we saw them in the end of 2018, in November or December 2018, when we are going towards the 3,150 US dollar low. And this was the one thing was the net unrealized profit and loss. It is an on-chain indicator directly pulled from the Bitcoin blockchain. And this one showed severely oversold levels for Bitcoin. However, this does not mean that we are not going lower. This means that we are already at massively oversold prices. So in the long run, this indicator points towards the fact that if you buy Bitcoin right now, within the next few years, you will see outsized returns, because what you are doing when you are buying Bitcoin right now is you are buying the fear. It does not mean that in 1 week, 2 weeks, we are maybe at 3,000. This is possible. I'm talking here about the long term. And this net unrealized profit and loss ratio actually shows massively oversold prices. It shows extreme amounts of fear. And the second one was the spend output profit ratio for long-term holders. So this one shows right now that even the long-term holders are on average right now holding and trading in a loss, which is also bullish for the long term. Even though it sounds a little bit paradox, it is bullish for the long term, because right now it means that not only the short-term holders, but also the long-term Bitcoin holders are trading and holding in a loss. And what we said in that video is that the market overall is designed to take the most amount of money from the most amount of people most of the time. And this is actually what is happening right now. Most of the people right now have already lost their money. And this specific indicator is pointing towards exact that fact. So in the long run, these prices are extremely cheap for Bitcoin when it comes to our own personal opinion. And this is why we said it flashed a buy indicator. It's not for the immediate short term, it's for the long term.
And what is your price prediction for Bitcoin? What price can we expect this year?
So yeah, as I already said, we didn't expect that plunge, and we had a higher price prediction before because we saw actually the financial markets crumbling towards the end of the year. So we had higher price targets. Right now it's happening earlier because we did not foresee this virus coming, and this virus most certainly acts as a trigger. And it led the financial crisis happening earlier than expected, a little bit earlier than expected. So we have to decrease our price targets. And we have actually two scenarios. We have a bearish scenario. If this virus weakens, then we can see even lower prices than we are seeing right now in the immediate short term and also in the short mid run. However, if we are able to close above the 200-week moving average, which is currently located at 5,500 US dollars, within this week or the next week, this would be actually bullish, because we never saw Bitcoin closing below, and now in the last week we saw Bitcoin closing below. However, if it only closes below 1 or 2 weeks, we consider that being fine and not necessarily breaking the key market structure, because it's only a week down. If we see Bitcoin within the immediate short term closing above the 5,500 US dollar level and holding above, a bullish scenario could come into place. And in this case, our best case scenario would actually be 14,000 US dollars. But please, guys, don't buy into Bitcoin just because I said that. We have to see something's happening. We have to see Bitcoin closing above. We have to see Bitcoin actually decoupling a little bit of the financial market sphere. And we have to see people losing trust into the fiat currencies for these prices to come into place.
Yeah, let's see, and let's take these opportunities during the crisis. Thank you for interview, Chris.
Sure, guys, be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. Right now, everyone is fearful, and keep that in mind for the long run. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.